Greetings, true believers. It's your old pal Spider-Man. Good morning, happy Saturday. Um, we slept in, so it's like almost 11:30 now. Amber's out making brunch. I'm having a seltzer, blackberry lime, really good. So I just thought we'd do kind of a lazy shave today. Um, but also want to do something a little bit different. So this is the Getting to Know Spider edition. So while I'm shaving, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I know most of the people that watch this from the shaving cadre, they kind of know me. If you've been on the forums, I've been on the forums for 10 years. You kind of know me. But I know a lot of people that maybe just started watching me on YouTube. They don't know me from the forums. They probably don't know me as well. So I kind of wanted to give you a little bit of my backstory and see if that interests you. We're going to go ahead. I'm going to use clown puke soap. So what clown puke soap is just a mishmash conglomeration of lots of different soaps. Kind of looks a little bit pukey, hence we call it clown puke. Because the first time somebody ever made one, they called it clown puke. It had lots of different colors in it. I've got a starter kit. My clown puke starter kit has chopped up bits and pieces of 3 or 4 different shave sticks. So we got the spike in there. So we got some peach color. We got the green from the Palmolive. We got some forget which one. I think this is the Velobra. So we got some brown in there. So once my clown puke tubs start getting a little bit lower, so this one's fairly full, but once I use this one down a bit, I'll add more of my cedar cubes in there and then start packing in samples. So basically that's how I create these clown puke tubs, is just with samples. So usually if I get a sample, I'm only going to use it once or twice. It's still got some life left in it, and yeah, if I really like the scent, I'll keep using it. But if I don't, then it's going to go in my clown puke tub. So what happens is all of the soaps just kind of commingle. As you're loading your brush, you get bits and pieces of lots of different soap in here. It ends up being a really, 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 really good lather. It's amazing. You know, each soap has its own properties. Some soaps just lather really well. Some soaps are really slick. Some soaps have great cushion. When you mix them together like this and you get bits and pieces of every different soap, you actually get all of those attributes all in one. So this is really actually high quality stuff. Despite the fact that some of the individual pieces that make it up are just mediocre or, you know, not upper tier soaps, but the result, it's synergy. That means the culmination, the addition of all the individual pieces is greater than that of the individual parts. So this is a very synergistic thing to do with your soaps. It's a lot of fun. So if you've got tons of, and this is how I started off. I just had tons of samples laying around that I'd used once or twice, or I'd smelled it and I'm like, I don't really care for that by itself. And at one point I'm like, I have this whole bag or this whole box full of samples. I need to do something with them. So they all went into a tub, and I've been loving this thing ever since. Even if you got some scents in here that you don't like, the scents just kind of mix with everything else and it just balances out. And you just get a really good soap base. So I highly encourage you to do this. One of my next things that I want to do, and I've been talking about it for a while and just haven't gotten around to doing it yet, is getting a tub and making an elite clown puke. So what that would be is basically headhunting out your best soaps and pulling off a sample from each of your upper tier, elite, high-end soaps and making one of these just with the best of the best to hopefully create probably the best shaving soap ever that you can't buy. So that's what we're going to use today. I'm going to use my Eric Sorrentino brush. The lighting in here isn't doing this brush any justice. It is really, really shiny. This was one of his first brushes that he ever did in the poured resin handle. He did a live Zoom call that he recorded and put it up on YouTube when he did these. He did a contest, 3 of us won, and we all got to pick the colors that went into the blank, and that was his first time doing it. So I picked my favorite colors, which are green, purple, and black, and I had him put in just a little tiny bit of the like the silver to get some of that shine in there, and I love the way this turned out. And so thanks, Eric. Got a free brush and a piece of history, really, for the cadre and for Eric's work, Eric's work is really great. He does. I've got these brushes from him and this one. So his work is amazing, and really love supporting that guy. What else am I gonna use? I'm gonna go with my old standby, which is the Yuma. I love this. It's just an easy razor. Cheap, pop metal, ugly, light, but it just works. It's one of my favorite razors. So we're gonna go to that, get going, wet this brush. It's synthetic, so it won't take long. Wring it out and start going on this. So, about me. My dad was in the Navy when I was born. I was born in Virginia. We lived right on the beach. And shortly after I was born, my dad went back out to sea, so my mom took me to live with family in Michigan. And after my dad's last tour, he got out, joined us in Michigan, and that is where I grew up for the rest of my young adult life. When I was 3 years old, 3/4, my dad started learning to fly hot air balloons, and he flew balloons for 10 years. So being on the chase crew and just learning all the ins and outs of hot air ballooning, going to balloon shows, which were usually in conjunction with air shows, just had a love of aviation from early childhood. That was like it was my dad's passion, and ended up rubbing off on me and became one of my passions, was aviation and airplanes. Early on in grade school, my dream job that I wanted so badly was to be an astronaut. Did a whole bunch of research on what it takes to be an astronaut, for school projects and reports and stuff like that. And kind of gleaned that the majority of astronauts come from the military, and especially the Air Force. So from early time, I kind of knew that I wanted to go into the Air Force and be that part of my career progression. When I was in 5th grade, I actually went to space camp in Florida. 2 years later, I went to Space Academy in Huntsville, Alabama. And then 2 years later, again, I went to Space Academy Level 2, which was just a bit more advanced. You got to do a little bit more stuff. And also Aviation Challenge, which was like the fighter pilot version of space camp. So you just got immersed into what it's like to be a pilot, to plan missions, to fly simulators, and that sort of thing. So really just loved that. When I was 13, decided to go for my pilot's license. So I started ground school, flying, and I completed my ground school course and went to take my private pilot's test, which when you take the test, it's good for 2 years. So you take ground school, you take the test, you do all the learning, you take the test. If you pass the test, That's basically your learner's permit. And it's good for 2 years, and you have to take your final exam, which is your driving test, your flying test. And you have to get your pilot's license. You can't get your pilot's license until you turn 16. Well, I was still 13 when I was taking the test, and the test examiner realized that I was too young. And so he basically held onto my test and didn't turn it in until I turned 14 so that it would all be legal. So did that, got my private pilot's license right when I turned 16. And then when I graduated high school, went to college at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Prescott, Arizona. Studied electrical engineering and also attended Air Force ROTC. Loved the desert, loved the atmosphere out in Arizona. We were up in the mountains, up a mile in altitude was the elevation there. And so it was Arizona, but it wasn't like super hot. It was rare to get above like 95 there, which was really, really nice. 95 in a dry heat is amazing. So graduated college, got commissioned as a lieutenant in the Air Force, and moved to California, where I did undergraduate space and missile training for the Air Force. Became a peacekeeper ICBM launch officer, and did my tour of duty for that in Wyoming, Cheyenne. Then I became an engineer and moved to Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska and worked for Stratcom doing nuclear planning. Then I moved to Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri doing B-2 weapons testing. Then I moved to Eglin Air Force Base in Florida and did work on the U-2 spy plane. Then I retired from the Air Force and moved back to Missouri because that's where my kids were. I have 4 kids. But we split up, so for the time that I was in Florida, I was not with my kids, wanted to be closer to them. So luckily got a job back at Whiteman working for Northrop Grumman, again with the B-2. Hobby-wise, so obviously wet shaving, but I've always been like a collector. I've had the collecting bug in me from an early age. You know, when you're 3rd to 5th grade, one of the big things for us was collecting stickers. We had sticker books, and you'd get stickers, you'd trade stickers, and always took really good care of my stuff, and just kind of always in that collector mindset. Loved looking at antique stores. But one of the first things that I really got into was tarantulas. I was scared of spiders as a kid. And saw a tarantula in the path in Arizona when I was in college. And that got me thinking, you know, I have no reason to be scared of spiders. It's an irrational fear. I don't know why I'm scared of spiders, but I am. So decided to get over my fear. I started to do some research, look into tarantulas, and eventually learned that they're not as bad as a lot of people think they are. They're relatively harmless to people, so they Actually just a good beneficial species to have. And the more and more I studied spiders, studied tarantulas, I'm like, these things are really cool and I want to have one. So eventually got to the point where I got a tarantula, and then one led to two, two led to five, and so on, and you just start a collection of tarantulas. And that was my hobby. So the way I am right now with the shaving forums, 20 years ago, that's the way it was with tarantula forums. And it's because of that. That is why they call me Spider right now. When I was at US Stratcom, I brought some of my tarantulas into my office, kept them on my desk, and they started calling me Spider-Man. So even though I love Spider-Man, that was always been my favorite character. Grew up on Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, loved it, but wasn't really a big Spider-Man fanboy. But then they named me Spider-Man. That became my official Air Force call sign. So from that point on, I would always just start collecting Spider-Man stuff to go along with my image, and so on. So, that just got shortened down to Spider for forums and whatnot. So people still call me Spider, Spider-Man. Some of the people that I used to work with when I was in the Air Force, they still call me Spider-Man. So that's pretty cool. And then, from there, I got into the shaving hobby. That exploded. Really enjoying this. What am I gonna use today? I think we're gonna go with the Ethos Mysore Santal. And actually has real Mysore sandalwood oil in it, and actually has some pieces of Mysore sandalwood in it. So it's kind of like that piece of wood still has some of the resins and the oil in it, so it's actually making this more concentrated as it sits. Really good, really good scent. Probably one of the only aftershaves out there that you're going to find real sandalwood. So if you're interested in that, Frank Dragon's Beard is the head of the Ethos line. Oh man, this stuff smells so good. And he right now he's selling primarily through the forums and through his email. You can check him out on the Shaving Cadre. But his website will be up hopefully soon, where you will be able to order directly from there. But I was just going to wrap this up and say, after I got into shaving, I started collecting other things. So I've got tarantulas, I've got snakes, I've got some fish, I got a cat. But mainly I like the stuff that's on the outskirts, the weird stuff, the creepy stuff. So I also have a collection of creepy dolls, and creepy clowns, creepy monkeys, any sort of creepy doll, anything like that. Ventriloquist dummies, things like that. I just like the macabre. Like Halloween's my favorite. So I'm sure there's probably a lot more that I was intending on saying here, but I don't want this to go any longer. We're gonna wrap this up, and I'll just say, hey, if you want to ask me any questions, comment below. We'll do some other stuff. Also, I do another channel. That's one thing I was going to hit on real quick. I do another channel. It's called Spider Eats the Heat. And I love hot food. I love hot peppers, hot sauces, spicy food challenges, anything like that. So if you're interested in that, check out my other channel. And really looking forward to getting my garden going. We've got peppers in the ground. I can't wait until they get out and actually eat some hot peppers straight out of the garden. I love doing that. So looking forward to it. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up now. Check us out, Shaving Cadre, www.theshavingcadre.com. The best shaving forum on the internet, I promise you. We have a lot of fun there. We do Zoom calls, we do Zoom calls once a week, right now on Wednesdays. That is just a hoot. Everybody that joins in on that has a great time. Really looking forward to that every single week. And we'll see you guys later. Enjoy your shaves. Later.